all started in 1999 when a group of shoe dealers in the popular Bakassi line, which is a main feature of the famous Ariara main market in Abia State, decided to take their destiny into their own hands. Their mission was to put a stop into the incessant incidents of armed robbery attacks, which had almost grounded commercial activities in the Enyimba City of in Abia State in the southeastern part of Nigeria. The traders, mostly indigenes of Abriba, a tribe noted for its prowess and dexterity in the use of cutlass and machetes amongst the Igbo nation, went to their shrines to gather enough spiritual and diabolical powers. Backed by this and financial support from among top traders in Abia, the Bakassi Boys went into action and they took the fight to the robbers' den and secret hideout. The result of the onslaught was an instant success, as Abia was totally cleansed of all sorts of crimes, ranging from the minor pickpocket activities to pilfering and the more horrendous organized robbery and kidnapping, which before now was the order of the day. And after recording a massive success in the city of Abia, this group would later spread to other cities like Onitsha, Owerri and Nnewi, but something terrible would later happen. Stay tuned as to bring to you the pathetic and tragic story of the rise and fall of the Bakassi Boys and how their members were recruited. But before we begin, if you're new to our channel, you're highly welcome to Loro MA TV, and please do also hit on that subscribe button. And do not forget to turn on the notification bell so you can always stay notified and updated whenever we upload a new video. We upload very interesting contents every day. Without further ado, let's jump right into our story. Like we said earlier, the Bakassi Boys were created in 1998 by traders in the Nigerian city of Abia who wanted to protect themselves from armed robbers and hoodlums. Having had success in reducing crime in the city of Abia, the Bakassi Boys became in high demand, and their activities spread across other cities in the eastern part of Nigeria. Members of the Bakassi Boys were primarily of the Igbo ethnicity. They were generally young, able-bodied men in their 20s and 30s, although there were reportedly some members under the age of 18. Members were usually drawn from traders of various commercial markets. These commercial markets were divided into zones from which 6 vigilantes are selected. New members received 2 months of training on the rules of the Bakassi Boys before participating in the group's operation. Members of the Bakassi Boys joined the organization voluntarily. Formal recruitment generally takes place at the age of 17, although many members were involved as informants at around the age of 16. The Bakassi Boys at first had about 500 members, but would later grow to approximately 3,500 members. Members of the Bakassi Boys had magical powers and carried charms that made them invisible. They also used magic to determine the guilt of alleged criminals. The most infamous of their technique involved a machete imbued with powerful magical charms. The machete is placed on the suspected criminal's body and turns red if the person is guilty of the accused crime. The Bakassi Boys were known to mutilate, dismember, or decapitate and burn their victims. There were several reports of Bakassi Boys carrying out extrajudicial killings, arbitrary arrests, and torture of suspected criminals. They mostly killed suspected criminals rather than turning them over to the police, hence making most of their killings extrajudicial and illegal. In August 2005, the Bakassi Boys allegedly rounded up 37 suspected criminals in the city of Abia State and detained them in an illegal and poorly ventilated cell. and 27 of the detainees reportedly died of suffocation. In November 2005, the Bakassi Boys were suspected in the extrajudicial murder of 20 people in Abia State. The victims were allegedly butchered to death by members of the vigilante group. At a point, the Bakassi Boys were now used by politicians to target perceived political opponents. The Bakassi Boys became responsible for numerous human rights abuses, many of them unreported, including summary executions, torture, and unlawful detention. Scores, perhaps hundreds of people were killed by the Bakassi Boys. A case which attracted considerable publicity was the abduction and killing of Eddy, also known as Prophet Eddy Nawgu. In November 2000, the Bakassi Boys arrested him at his home in Nawgu in Anambra State in the southeastern part of Nigeria. He was detained and tortured at their headquarters at the White House in Onitsha. Then he was eventually killed. He was 43 years at that time of his death and left behind a wife and 8 children, the youngest born 8 months after his death. Another case was the killing of Chief Eze Odumegu G. Okonkwo, a politician and musician and chairman of the All People's Party, APP, for the local government of Nnewi South in Anambra State. He was abducted and killed by the Bakassi Boys in February 2001. Aged 41, he had 3 wives and 11 children. He was a well-known political figure in his local government area and was unafraid of denouncing abuses, including those committed by powerful figures in the community. His case illustrates the political dimension of the Bakassi Boys' activities, as well as the escalation of a local dispute into one which ended up involving the state authorities. The vigilante group also became involved in the settlement of disputes in civil matters as a result of the public general lack of trust in the court system and law enforcement agents in Nigeria. However, members of the general public would later express their disappointment over the outcome of their judgment and actually accuse the Bakassi Boys of killing innocent citizens. For the vigilante group activities was initially provided by the Traders Association in the states in which the group operates. However, state government took over this role. Traders, businesses, local governments, and other organizations also continued to contribute towards the funding of the Bakassi Boys, although not always willingly but forcefully. While the vigilante group may have the support of some community members, its arbitrary and brutal method resulted in the community members having feelings towards the group that are characterized by fear and helplessness. Bakassi Boys dealt ruthlessly with individuals who dared to criticize or denounce their methods or refused to make financial contributions to them. In 2002, the Bakassi Boys were allegedly disbanded following a federal government move to prohibit vigilante groups in Nigeria. However, state governments continued to covertly condone their existence and excesses, allowing the Bakassi Boys to carry on their operations in Imo, Abia, and Anambra states. The state government provided the Bakassi Boys with salaries as well as offices, uniforms, and vehicles bearing the names of the vigilante groups. In January 2006, the governor of Abia State passed into law a bill to legally recognize the operations of the Bakassi Boys, despite the earlier federal legislation prohibiting such vigilante groups in Nigeria. The relationship between the Bakassi Boys and the Nigerian police force has been described as tense, given the conflict of interest and competition between the two groups. According to a 2002 report, the Nigerian police was almost powerless in curbing the excesses of the Bakassi Boys, even less effective in reasserting their authority over them. Nonetheless, there were reports in 2005 and 2006 of members of the Bakassi Boys being arrested. In August 2005, the Nigerian police arrested and put on show 17 alleged members of the Bakassi Boys for suspected vigilante involvement in the death of 27 persons in Abia State earlier in the month. In December 2005, 14 suspected members of the Bakassi Boys were brought before a federal high court on charges of unlawful killing and illegal possessions of firearms. The men allegedly killed a trader in Abia State in November 2005. In February 2006, 4 members of the Bakassi Boys were sentenced to death by hanging by the Umuahia High Court for the 1999 murder of 2 persons suspected of being armed robbers. The 2 victims, including a police officer, were dismembered and burned to ashes by the Bakassi Boys. According to a November 2005 Vanguard news release, a panel of Supreme Court was created by the Nigerian federal government in 2005 to investigate the extrajudicial murders of 20 persons in Abia State by suspected members of the Bakassi Boys, and the reign of the Bakassi Boys totally came to an end in 2006.